Okay, so we solved the first two parts of the problem. We've calculated the cost of the equity using the dividend growth model. We've calculated the cost of our debt using the yield to maturity method, which is calculating the rate for our bonds. Now, we don't have any preferred stock to deal with in this particular problem, so we can go ahead and ignore that component of the weighted average cost of capital. The next step here is to determine the market value. So the total market value of our equity, which is the stock, and the total market value of our debt, which is going to be the bonds. So I've already done this here to save a little bit of time, but the equity is simply the number of shares outstanding, which is 650,000, times the selling price per share of $30. That means our equity would be valued at $19.5 million. So $19.5 million. The debt, we would do essentially the same calculation. How many bonds are outstanding? We have 22,000 bonds outstanding. They're selling for $1,374.92 per piece. That would mean we have $3,248,240 worth of bonds outstanding. Add those two numbers together and we will get the total debt plus equity. If you remember back to the first couple of chapters when we talked about financial statements, we know total assets, let me just type that in, equals total liabilities plus equity. So the V component, so I should say this is equal to V in our bottom calculation here. So we're going to take each component now. If equity is $19.5 million, we're going to take that number and divide it by our total debt plus equity, which would be the $19.5 million divided by the $19.5 million in equity plus the $30 million in bonds. If we run that calculation, you'll see that equity makes up almost 40% of our financing. And then we have debt here, which was again $30,248,240. Take that and divide it by the total liabilities plus equity, and debt makes up about 61% of our financing. So now we know the cost of those two types of financing for our company. Sorry, I'm just going to highlight it. That's in red here. And we also know the weight of those two types of financing. Now it's just a matter of plugging it into the formula. So the cost of the equity, we said, was 13.52. The weight of the equity was 0.392. The cost of the debt was 8%. The weight of the debt was a little over 60%, 608. And then the 1 minus the tax rate. Well, the tax rate was 0.34 or 34%. So that will be the very last component. So I just come in here and I like to break it up so I can easily see what I'm doing. So I'm going to take the cost of the equity, multiply it times the weight of my equity. I'm going to skip the preferred stock here. It's 0. We didn't have any. So now I'm going to do that with our debt. Cost of the debt multiplied by the weight of the debt, which again is reflected right here in this component of the formula. And then lastly we have the 1 minus t. Well, 1 minus 0.34 gets us 0.66. Let's finish this problem. Multiply, or take the number there, add it to our debt component, multiplied by that tax rate there, and we get 0.85. We can actually go ahead and convert that into a formula. Get 8.51%. And that would be how you would solve the weighted average cost of capital problems. Thank you.